Welcome to Bold Women Live interviews. And we are excited today because I have a special guest who's going to talk about something I have been wondering about for a long time. So today we have Matthew Kerbis, and he is going to be talking to us about subscription models. But first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Matthew before I ask him to jump in. But hello, Matthew. Welcome. We're really happy to have you here today.
So happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So Matthew, obviously is an attorney. He founded Subscription Attorney LLC in 2022. And he started building a legal services subscription model to help give affordable access to legal advice for small businesses, small business owners, founders, creative, freelancers, gig workers, of whom there are a growing number every single day, and just everyday people. And he realized that the subscription model, he believes, could revolutionize the legal profession. So that's why he started his subscription model, and I am really anxious to hear from him. So Matthew, without further ado, I'm going to ask you to jump in and tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to a subscription model and what that's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to give a quick background. So, what are we as lawyers if not problem solvers, right? And so before I decided to pursue a career in law, I thought about being an engineer, and it's just a different kind of problem solver, right? And maybe that's taking it too far back, but I think that sort of brings it really. I do have to go that far back to explain what brought me to the subscription model for the legal profession. And I certainly didn't invent the subscription model, and I wasn't the first lawyer to use it in the legal profession, though I am very much trying to push the model, like you said, not just for my own success, but hopefully for the success of other lawyers and the clients who they serve. Skipping quite a bit ahead from high school to law school, I ended up serving as the chair of the law student division for the American Bar Association. And in my work there, it was very much focused on legal education, but then what most students were worried about were a combination of something that comes with most law students for legal education, and that is their student loan debt and getting a job to be able to pay down that debt and maybe hopefully one day do the good work they wanted to do as a lawyer and help people, which I think is most people in law school before they have to focus on their finances when they graduate. And I've done some speaking and some podcasting about financial wellness to help law students and young lawyers in that regard. So I'm problem solving there, but that's always kind of stuck with me, even as I've gone into work as a young lawyer and then as a leader in the ABA as a young lawyer. And it was just a number of different things and confluence of events, and I'm always trying to problem solve in the back of my head. How do we fix the student loan problem? How do we solve the lawyers need jobs problem? And then something else the ABA really pushes really hard, for those of you involved in it especially, who are lawyer watchers today, is access to justice. And so then that sort of also entered my mind of here's this big problem. I'm a leader in this association, and it's a problem the association's trying to solve. And there were many different things that we tried to attempt. And then I do a lot of reading and I do a lot of consuming, and it just kind of dawned on me that, well, the subscription model could kind of solve a lot of those problems. Mm-hmm. It can reduce costs for people who previously can't afford legal services. It can allow, and legal tech, developing a lot, that's also played a role. And so with adoption of legal tech and non-legal tech tools, just everyday entrepreneur tools, you could deliver legal services more efficiently so that you could deliver those services at a lower cost. And that way attorneys can make more money, serve more clients. Clients could get access to legal services more affordably. And while it doesn't solve the student loan problems at the start, which is how do we reduce cost of legal education? And I've had resolutions adopted in the ABA Young Lawyers Division that try to do that. But there's all these lawyers still who have student loans who are past that point, right? So how do we solve that problem? So I feel like this is kind of it's not the the one solution that's going to solve everything, but I think it could be a really big solution to all those problems. And so that's really what brought me to the subscription model for my own practice. And I was preaching about it before I decided to launch my own practice. So I decided I had to practice what I preached. So here I am.
So tell us a little bit about your practice and how the subscription model works within your practice. Like, what's your area of specialty, and tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I had a I guess I'm in month 3 of starting my own practice, right?
All right.
So I thought about it for years, and there were even talks at my prior firm of launching a subscription model within that firm. It's very hard to grow a practice within a practice, and so I decided to leave and start my own. And since I'm doing something that, at least as I could tell, no other law firms are doing, or if they are, they're not marketing their firms really well, because I think I've talked to every attorney offering a subscription model already out there. And if I haven't talked to you, reach out to me, because I want to interview you for my podcast, Law Subscribed. But I'm offering an entry-level subscription, meaning that I'm offering a monthly price that consumers are already used to spending on other things, and that's $19.99 a month. And so, we could go into what that actually gets clients later, but the goal is sort of everyday people. And what do everyday people need? Well, all sorts of different things. But people think that they could read, and so they understand words, so they understand contracts, and maybe that should be true, but unfortunately it's not. This audience knows that the law is the operating system of society, and we, the lawyers, are kind of the coders, right? Which is funny because statutes are code in a lot of ways, right?
Right.
So
Right.
we're the programmers, the minds who are capable of understanding what it actually means, and we can help them better understand the situation that they're signing on to. Sort of the most out of the left field contract I helped a client with that I never thought I would, and I've mentioned this in some other shows, is a pet groomer's agreement, right? Like even things like you take your dog to get a haircut and they want you to sign a contract.
Yeah.
People who are getting married have to sign contracts with all these vendors, right? And they don't think to hire an attorney to help them negotiate, or at the very least, sometimes just understand what it means so they know what they're getting themselves into if they don't want to negotiate it. Employment contracts, most people are employed. So I wanted to be able to serve these people in whatever sort of their needs are. So when you ask, what is my specialty, it's really just my specialty is trying to be affordable for everyday people. I want to be the fractionalized in-house attorney for people's lives, right? That's what I'm trying to be. So it sort of runs the gamut of practice areas, but my specialty is affordability.
But let me ask you, because the first question that comes to mind, and I would think that comes to mind not just for lawyers, but for people that are thinking about this, well, what do I get for $19 a month? How does it work?
Well, Sharon, you could go to subscriptionattorney.com, and I've spelled it all out on my website. But really, it gets you access. That's what you get when you sign up as an entry-level subscriber. You get access to my calendar, and I use Calendly, which is a scheduling app. And there are a lot of them out there. I happen to really like Calendly because of some of its integrations. I even have a floating button on my website that no matter what page somebody's looking at, they can click that button, and boom, there's a Calendly link. You can set up an introductory call with me. But for my clients, they're actually scheduling consultations in 15-minute increments. And so as an entry-level subscriber, you get access to less of my calendar than for premier-level subscribers, and then the freelance and business-level subscribers that get access to my entire calendar of availability. So that's where I make the differentiation. And that means you get me on a Zoom, you get me on a call at a time where I know I'm available, where I'm available. And then I'm able to, field their legal questions, whatever they might be, maybe provide some legal guidance over the phone. When it comes to actually reviewing documents and maybe negotiating things on their behalf, well, I have flat fee pricing and subscription add-ons that are available to both entry level and then above the subscribers that subscribe at a higher level. And the entry level subscribers also get limited access to the flat fee pricing and the subscription add-ons, but I think it's only limited because I offer more to the other level subscribers, but it's still a lot. It's still a lot of flat fee options, and I try to, because I'm trying to build an ongoing, really eternal relationship with these clients, that I offer below market prices for these flat fee services. So where, at least in Illinois, real estate attorneys might charge X amount for real estate services, I charge Y amount, which is a couple $100 less than the average amount, because I'm expecting to hopefully continue to represent these people before and after the real estate closing, that I'm able to charge less. And so what I hope doesn't happen is real estate attorneys see me and they're like, oh, I have to compete, I'm going to lower my price. Well, then they actually might not be they might be putting in more work than what their value they're getting back from their clients in terms of what they're paying them, because they're not understanding it, which is why I'm really happy to get on this show and try to explain the subscription model, because I don't mind competition in that regard. I want more people offering the subscription model, but I just need them to understand that what you're building is a long-term relationship where your client's not afraid to call you because all of a sudden the clock starts ticking, and that is not something that I do. And then the last thing, which is a growing thing, this is the last thing they get for the 20 entry-level subscribers, is they get access to my growing knowledge base. And this is every time I answer somebody's question, to the extent I find it valuable, I put it in writing and I upload it to my knowledge base, which is, if you go to sort of any website these days, they have like the knowledge base, or the they call it different things, but it explains how their website works or how their product works. Well, I'm taking a page out of that book and I'm making it the knowledge base of legal issues, right? So what happens if I have a concern with my landlord and they're not fixing something, then I could just explain that to the client, and then in light of my explanation, maybe write it down and upload it to the knowledge base. And now clients can view the knowledge base, which is kind of like a curated, Google search, but it's actually your lawyer who's given this actual legal advice to a different client. Now I strip out any, client identifying information.
Sure.
And then this way, when my clients actually schedule a time to talk with me, maybe that didn't answer all their questions, it's gotten them further along the process. So maybe so it helps me in 15 minutes or less, get them to where they need to be, kind of a thing.
So a couple of, questions probably coming out of more traditional law, but things that, of course, lawyers have to consider. So, we all know there's a fine line between giving, or there can be, between giving some general information, sort of like frequently asked questions kinds of things, and educating someone, and giving legal advice. So how do you, in a subscription model like you're describing, your model, how do you make sure that clients understand, I'm giving you general information, accurate information, but it's not anything you can count on as legal advice for your situation?
Well, I have sort of a, well, first of all, they're clients, so I could give them legal advice, right? They're subscribers. And if you look at my engagement agreement.
I misunderstood. It's only the subscribers that get.
It's only the subscribers get access. That's part of the value, because in order to ethically comply with, client trust fund, account rules, if they're paying me $20 a month, I have to be giving them immediate value for that $20 a month. Otherwise, it's not an earned fee yet. But in my instance, it is an earned fee. And I explain that it's a really good question. I'm glad you asked the question to make sure that distinction is clear, right? These are clients. By signing up on my website, which is really easy to do, and I've built an onboarding flow that allows me to know whether or not I can actually represent this person, because I'm only licensed in the state of Illinois, and I ask the right questions, right, in my onboarding system through my client portal, which is a whole other legal tech. We get into, it's not a legal tech tool; it's just a tech tool that I use for my law practice. But these are only offered to clients, right? Now, what I might do is I can take something that I have in the knowledge base, and I could maybe shorten it up and use it for marketing, and just be clear in my marketing, this is just legal information. Because in a way, what I'm doing on my website in the knowledge base is more so leaning towards legal information, because it's not specific to their problem, but it is actual advice I've actually given to a client, right? And so their facts may differ, and I do have a little, it's not really a disclaimer, it's more of just an explanation, because these are clients, but I have a little explanation when the client enters the knowledge base that, this information has been, is not specific, to your facts. So after you read it, if you have questions, go to the link in the client portal where you can schedule a time to talk with me, and I can help explain your situation in light of what you just read here on the knowledge base. So because I want to encourage clients to use the subscription, they sign up and talk to me. For some, though, the knowledge base might be all they need. right? And so I don't expect to get clients booking time to talk with me all the time. And if they did, I'd either have to stop my marketing funnels or I'd have to hire more attorneys. So I haven't come to that, bridge yet, but when I do, I'll have to pick, which way do I want to go with that.
Now, what happens when, somebody, you can't cover all aspects of law. So somebody comes to you, signs up as a client, maybe they had a problem with their landlord and comes back and says, okay, I need a divorce. Is that something that you cover, or how does it work if you're being asked about services that you may not provide?
Yeah. That's a great question, and it's a problem I'm trying to solve by being on your show. I need more. I need a divorce attorney out there, or a family law attorney who's adopting the subscription model. So when I do refer a client, which I ultimately will have to do in some situations, this client can expect similar types of pricing models from them. And I know that there are at least a couple of family law attorneys in the Denver area that are being innovative and offering subscription models, right? But that doesn't help my Illinois clients, right?
No, it does not. Yeah.
And I do offer some family law, sort of more transactional type, because I only do transactional work. I have 8 years of litigation experience, but I had a growing transactional practice during those 8 years, and I decided to just fully pivot into transactional. So I can maybe advise a little bit, but I can't actually file an appearance and represent them in court because that's not how I've set up efficiencies in my firm. But I do like prenuptial agreements, postnuptial agreements, right? I'll do mediations, so there are things that I will do that don't involve litigation directly related to like the family law example that you gave. That might be able to help them avoid litigation, because I do not to take away work from litigators, but I feel like if legal advice was more affordable before you had a problem, you might be able to help. Instead of helping clients solve a problem, I could help them avoid a problem, and actually that could help the court system, right? Because then there's less cases and there's less backlog and there's less, our taxpayer dollars aren't going to handle situations that probably could have been taken care of, if they just had legal counsel before a problem got so super bad. And as that continues to grow, lawyers might not be able to charge their exorbitant amounts for litigation-related work, right? So, well, okay, I could keep going, so I'm going to let you ask the next question.
Okay. So when somebody signs up under your subscription model, is it for a specified period of time?
Yes,
6 months, a year?
It is month to month.
Month to month?
And that lets me out. So if a client is signing up for like 3 15-minute meetings in a row, which technically I don't have any sort of system set up to prevent them from doing that, but that's not really, what I have set up. And frankly, I think most situations could be handled in 15 minutes over the phone, and then it might require some work, on my part, when I'm not on the phone with that client. But if they're sort of abusing the subscription in ways that I haven't really contemplated it, I can drop them as a client the next month, right? And same thing for them. If they're not getting value from it, which I hope they are, but if they're not, they can unsubscribe. And sometimes I'll get a real estate client where they just subscribe, because I only represent subscribers. So if you want that below market flat fee rate, you have to subscribe with me. And you'll still save money, probably. But you also might see it's nice to have a lawyer that you could just schedule a call with and ask some stuff that's going on in your life, and you want to have legal counsel to discuss it with. So that's sort of my goal. But I have had clients where they subscribe. It takes 3 months. We do the real estate closing and they unsubscribe. And that's totally fine, because if I also did a good job, maybe they'll come back to me later and resubscribe. And that's totally fine with me. I'm happy to do that. But a lot of times what I found, and so I hope this starts ringing all the bells for other attorneys that are sort of looking at a transactional practice like me, is, well, what happens after a real estate closing? Well, now now they have a big asset. So maybe they're thinking about estate planning, right? And maybe they're going to stay subscribed because now they want a will and a trust from you, which is how I've built my practice. And my fees for wills and trusts are lower than the next attorney, but higher than these, websites where they say, they're just offering documents and not legal advice, right? So I found a happy medium in between. I'm trying to fill that gap in the market, and there's so much potential business there. I couldn't possibly do all of it, right? So that's why I need more lawyers, to come in with me into this model, and also because I can only market so much on my own. So if other lawyers are out there marketing that this type of model exists, I think it helps all of us who are trying to fill this gap in the market.
So, if at what point does the monthly fee end, and then you have to move into some type of flat fee?
It's ongoing. So if you are just an entry level subscriber, it's $20 a month until you unsubscribe or I decide that I want to end the engagement. So that's it.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I wasn't clear on my question, because I know you have the monthly fee, but then there's flat fee for certain types of services. And is that right? Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah. So I mean, if there's, let's look at a real estate deal. If there's a real estate transaction, they sign up as a $20 a month subscriber. Maybe the transaction takes 3 months. So it's another, for me, and all my prices are on my website, so I'm happy to say them. My whole slogan is a transparent price for legal advice. So I got to live by that. So they $20 a month, $450 flat fee, which sometimes, I mean, it's up to the client because I've built a practice where it's very easy for me to just streamline payment processing. Like I don't have to chase down bills or anything. They could pay it up front or they could pay it during the closing, like is what most, if you've closed before with a real estate attorney, that's typically how they get paid. They get paid at the very end with everyone else. So I don't care. We could do either or. But whether you pay up front, that flat fee, or you pay at the end, you're still paying the $20 a month. And so when the real estate transaction is over, you're still paying the $20 a month unless you unsubscribe. And so the flat fee is like a one-time event, like a will or a real estate closing or a trust, and then it's over. For let's say like an asset purchase agreement, because I've done that several times and I know what goes into that process, I've actually built an efficient process for that. So that's a subscription add-on. So somebody now for that, it's not available to the $20 a month subscriber. It's available to my premier level subscribers, which is $99.99 a month and up, depending on which level you subscribe to. And that's because they get access to my entire calendar of scheduling time to talk with me, which is what we really need in an asset purchase agreement. So that's why I don't just arbitrarily assign what's available to the entry level subscribers versus the premier and up subscribers. There's actually like legitimate reasoning behind it. Well, that is that is $799.99 a month. So that's another $800 a month. Now, I've just found that I'm definitely that like the reason I've priced it at that is based upon what my former billable hour rate was and how much time I used to spend on asset purchase agreements, and it's a little bit less than that ultimately if it takes the 3 to 6 months that those transactions used to take, and it could take way less potentially, right? So I've built that out, and then let's say that transaction takes 3 months. I'm getting $100 a month plus the $800 a month for the subscription add-on of the asset purchase agreement negotiation through the letter of intent through to the closing. Once we close, there might be some, depending on the contract, and there might be some the purchase agreement. There might be some post-closing things I need to do. Then that would continue until those post-closing things have closed potentially. But if they're just like, in 6 months, we're just going to see if, we're going to do some reconciliation and like make some adjustments here, then they could get themselves off of that additional $800 a month, stay at the $100 a month level, which they are automatically at, and they're going to keep paying. And then once that thing comes up, well, they could pay me a flat fee for just handling that transaction, whatever it may be, and I charge $80 a page, which I'm actually thinking about lowering in light of some conversations I've had with some $20 a month subscribers where at a certain point it sort of gets not feasible, but I don't think I could go lower than $50 per page. So we'll see. Like, I'm in my 3rd month. I'm still learning, right? This is a learning process, and I'm happy to learn in the open because I think other attorneys need to get involved with this so we could all learn together. Which is why I have the podcast, right? And well, I'm glad I'm appearing on your show and some others. So that's sort of the, that's the way it works is you stay subscribed even after whatever sort of one big thing comes up might stop. And there are different reasons people have to stay subscribed. And if they don't want to, they just hired me for the asset purchase agreement, unsubscribe, resubscribe at a later date kind of a thing. But now somebody's just bought or sold a business. They're going to have some legal things come up. Yeah. It'll be nice to have an attorney to be able to call and talk to, even maybe for a few months, and then maybe they unsubscribe. And then they maybe want to use the money to start a new business, or they've just purchased the business and they have some employment-related questions. Well, guess what? I offer those services too, and then they just stay subscribed. So it's also just about giving them a reason to stay subscribed. And even though I'm not billing a bunch by the hour, I've eliminated so much waste in my practice that I'm not spending time doing the non-billable things that a lot of attorneys do. So it's okay for me that I may be making less than I would with the billable hour, but I could scale my practice, I could take on more clients, and I'm not doing the soul-crushing non-billable work that attorneys have to do.
Yeah. And so, you said that you can scale your business. So for somebody who's watching that's thinking, maybe I can, go down this road too, subscription services. What kind of volume though do you think they're, that as compared to when you were doing billable work, if you can do it that way? Are you looking at, like I was a disability lawyer. That's a very high volume practice. I loved what I did, but I got into it knowing I had to generate a very high volume of clients. And that's okay if you know that going in and you're willing to do it.
Right.
Is this a high volume type of practice, or is it something different? What's your experience so far?
Yeah, the goal is high volume. I would like 1,000 everyday people signed up at $20 a month. And then when they need these one-off projects, I would be able to help them. And I would be happy. I wouldn't even need any business clients. One of the reasons I have all the business stuff is because I have experience doing it, and there's a need for it. And there's so many people leaving and starting their own businesses now, leaving, the great resignation, which is really the great reassignment, because they're not just leaving and not working, they're leaving and they're becoming entrepreneurs, right? There's a revolution going on right now. And so like they need legal help too. And so it's sort of a no-brainer. I have to be able to position myself in that market as well. But as a solo practitioner who's a true solo, I also identify with freelancers, and I'm a part of some freelancer groups, and they need affordable legal assistance. And I think the packages I offer are very reasonable for freelancers and for gig workers who are cobbling together all sorts of different jobs and they want to know legal ramifications of this and that. But especially for freelancers who are like entering into contracts all the time on a project basis, it's good to have an attorney to help them negotiate things or just help prepare some contracts or, fix certain things with new things. Like there's so much education to do for the clients at the same time because somebody thinks I could buy a contract template off of such and such website and I just use that for my whole business. But you could run into so many problems if you do that. And what I'm offering is not productized legal services. There are some great attorneys out there who have templates that people pay for and get access to, and they're really not using the subscription model, but they totally should. And I hope to talk to those attorneys one day. And they have some podcasts about it too, and how they could implement the subscription model to actually make that business even better for them. And they do this, and they've had to spin off their own businesses where it's not a law firm and it's not a law practice if they productize those legal services, right? But they cross market and they do some things and that's very innovative and I love that. And down the line, maybe I will do some sort of productization of legal services because that's a different type of volume business. But for me, it is totally a volume business. That said, if I have, 5 asset purchase agreements going on, that I'm negotiating, I'm doing all right. And I don't really need a high volume, right? But I can't count on those forever. So you got to keep the marketing funnel going. And even when they, even if they stay at $100 a month subscribers, when their asset purchase agreements are done, so it could ebb and flow. Right now, it's not high volume because I've just started my business.
Yeah.
But I was profitable in week 3 because I'm operating a virtual law firm and I'm a true solo, and so my costs are super low. My highest cost is it's malpractice insurance. That's my highest cost.
And so, is the idea that that most people then everybody's a subscriber, they're paying X amount per month depending on what level they subscribe, but that they will also then be purchasing something else at a flat fee rate, as opposed to just a whole practice full of monthly subscribers?
Yeah. I mean, I think it could go either way. And we'll see. I mean, before I launched this practice, which is more of a general practice. I mean, I don't do everything, and I don't do litigation, but it's much more of a general practice. The subscription model found success before me, and I really follow in the footsteps of these attorneys. Most of them, to get back to sort of what your show is, most of them women and attorneys of color, or women attorneys of color who are innovating in this space before me, and I follow in their footsteps, and I get why they did it, because the system was built for people that look like me, the big giant law firms, right? The ABA just as we're doing this live, I think the ABA just released another study how it's still a bunch of white men leading big law firms, right? Which is terrible, and it should be different. But this is actually like a way that attorneys where the system isn't working for them, they can go off and be really successful. And so I think of Kimberly Bennett. Who's an attorney, who's a trademark attorney, and she represents creatives and business owners to help them with their brand and their trademarks, right? And so there's sort of a natural fit with subscriptions, especially in that niche, because there's ongoing protection that's required. For somebody's brand, and it makes a lot of sense to have a lawyer subscribed. But there, you could charge $1,000 a month, $5,000 a month, and there's you could be managing a lot of trademarks for these companies, and then you only need a handful of clients, and you're doing well as a solopreneur, right? So it's just a different way to approach it, and I think that, and I'm not saying the way I'm doing it is the only way to do it. I think the way that Kim is doing it, and she even has a legal tech platform now where it's called Fidu, and it's easy. It's like a turnkey solution to launch a subscription model for your practice, right? It's not. I'm not using it because I have my own version that I'm delivering, and her technology platform is more based on her experience with it. But I still think it could be great for a lot of lawyers to take that approach with it.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah. Because the only subscription model that when I was in active practice that I was aware of was Legal Shield. And I mean, I wasn't a part, I was sort of a part of it because they didn't do disability, and the local law firm needed somebody to refer that to. But that's how I first became aware of the whole idea of subscription services, which I think that they've been around for a long time. But it's interesting to hear you describing more solo and small firm lawyers now understanding, this might be a great way for me to go with my practice because of the services that I provide fit into it. I guess my question is with litigation. I'm just wondering, because that's what I did. Is there a way to get, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But there might be.
Absolutely, there is, but it depends on the client's mindset of it, right? I've had this conversation with personal injury attorneys before, where it's well, how do we, it's so hard to distinguish yourself as a personal injury attorney because they all take a third of what you get, or you eat what you kill, kind of a thing. But maybe there's a way, and you can improve the types of cases that you have for clients who are willing to pay something a month that. And then maybe you take 20% instead of a third, right? Maybe you take 15% instead of a third, and then you're not on the hook if you lose completely. Now the client is invested in the case, and then maybe they're not willing to pay you $200 a month or something because they know their case is BS. Right? Or they're fraudsters, or they're liars. And this is coming from an former insurance defense attorney. So I know there's a lot of not great cases out there for personal injury attorneys that they just take because they figure, well, maybe we'll settle with the insurance company.
Give it a shot, right? Yeah.
So maybe you could avoid, you could be more profitable. And then when the pandemic happened, courts shut down. Right. And for billable hour attorneys in litigation, like I was in, that hurt, a lot of those firms. And then for the personal injury attorneys, cases weren't moving forward, so there was no incentive to settle. So it hurt them a lot too. Well, something you could avoid with these types of practices is your clients, whether it's an insurance company or an everyday person, and it's going to be different amounts for those different types of people. Yeah. They pay X amount a month every month. And then maybe for the high volume practice, like on the insurance defense side, they pay a flat fee up front. So here's a case, insurance defense firm, here's a flat fee along with that case. And this is for, analyzing the complaint, filing the initial things, getting that up and running. And then it's a smaller amount every single month until the case is resolved, plus costs. So if there's experts, if there's deposition fees, the insurance companies, or just the companies in high volume, debt collection, I think this could work for potentially as well. So flat fee plus a subscription is the way to go. And then you have to add a carrot at the end. So you don't just keep the case going as long as you can. So in litigation, you want a carrot at the end. So for the personal injury attorneys, it's that you're still getting 15 or 20%. You're still getting a percentage of what you win. It's just less than you would have before. And for the insurance defense or other high volume practice, if you win at the end, or not necessarily if you win, but if you settle the case, you're given another flat fee. Maybe it's equal to the starting flat fee. And then if you have to go to trial, maybe it's double what that flat fee would be per week or whatever. You have to figure it out. I'm actually working on a formula for that. But I definitely think you can. Now, for like these one-off cases where it's not high volume, I think there's maybe a way you could adapt a flat fee in the beginning plus subscription, but the clients have to be able to afford it. So so it's hard to know. So something else I offer that I've been trying to problem solve with this is I will, for small business owners, I will be what I'm calling managed. I have a service called Managed Outside Counsel, where and this is maybe they're only paying me $100 a month, or maybe they're a small or medium business subscriber. For the large business subscribers, this is included in their monthly fee, but it's $1,000 a month, and I will manage outside counsel for them, right? So if they're in litigation and they don't want to handle it, they're the CEO of their business, they have more important things to be spending their time on than the legal things. I will, I've become a partner with them. Ideally, I know their business. I'm like fractionalized in-house counsel. I will manage that for them so they don't have to worry about it. And I'm actually an attorney and a former litigator, right? So I could help them out with something like that. So maybe to a certain extent, there could be costs reduced there because I'm also trying to keep costs down for them because that's sort of what in-house counsel does, right? So there are ways to innovate, I think, where maybe we can see a day where the billable hour leaves litigation entirely.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see how that develops because the model that we have is just very, and has been, I think, for a long time, very untenable, and yet it's where we still are. Yeah. I mean, I was a plaintiff's attorney for a long time, and when I first met my now husband at the time, and he's a business guy, and he says, well, explain to me how this contingent fee. I'm like, oh, well, I only get paid if I win. And he had this look of horror on his face. And, oh yeah, I'm responsible for paying all the costs. And if we lose, then I don't get that back. And I'll never forget it. He looked at me and said, what kind of business model is that? And it had never occurred to me because this is so ingrained in the legal profession. On the defense side, you bill by the hour. On the plaintiff side, it's contingent fee and you take on all the risks. And it's, I think, long past time for that to change, but we haven't done it yet. So it's very interesting, these models that you're describing, I think. And making legal services actually affordable for the average person, I think has long been a goal of a lot of lawyers, but we've not been able to figure out the way to do it. So Matthew, you may have hit on it. This may be it. Yeah.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Yeah. It could be good for a lot of lawyers and good for a lot of people.
Exactly. Well, listen, this has been fascinating. And so if, there's lawyers out there listening that would like to get in touch with you about how to do this or just talk to you about it, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, LinkedIn is probably the best way. I think we got connected through another group, but then LinkedIn is how we followed up. So I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. My messages are open even if you're not a connection, and I let anyone connect with me or follow me there. So LinkedIn's probably the best way for lawyers to get in touch with me. First of all, I highly recommend they go to subscriptionattorney.com. They can look at my model. It's out there. There's nothing to hide. My engagement agreement is out there. All my flat fee pricing and everything. So just look at it there. Although I do try to keep my work in bringing the subscription model to legal services different. I do that under a different brand that I call Law Subscribed. I mentioned that podcast before. It's on all the podcast platforms. I may start to release the videos of those recordings on YouTube in the near future. They require a little bit more editing, and I haven't outsourced that yet. And I've just launched a practice, but the podcast is out there. And then my last name, Kerbis, Kerbis, at lawsubscribe.com is the email I have for that. So that's another way if they wanted to email me. But I also have a website, lawsubscribe.com, and they could reach out to me on there too.
Okay, great. That's terrific. I find this, I think this is fascinating, and I'm really be following you to see, where this goes and where it takes you, because I think it's really just a fascinating model that can bring legal services to a lot of people who really thought they just couldn't afford a lawyer, and so they didn't bother and then got themselves in trouble. So,
and I think lawyers can make more money while living a more fulfilling life as a lawyer while doing it. And I think that's okay to have both, that lawyers can make more money, live more fulfilling lives, and clients could get more access to legal services. I think all of those things are okay to be happening at the same time.
Agreed. Couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely. Well, on that happy note, then, I'm going to thank you, Matthew, for coming on and talking to us about this. And I would love to have you back. Let some time, pass as you're working on your model, and have you come back and give us an update if that's something we could do.
I'd love to. Let's check in 6 months from now. How about that?
Terrific. Let's do it. Let's do it. You're on. All right. Well, listen, thank you so much. It was great having you, and I'll look forward to us talking again in 6 months. How's that?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here today. And I'm taking a break next week because I'm speaking at the State Bar Convention for, is that next week? Hold on. I don't always have I can't believe we're almost at the end of, yes. So no LinkedIn Live next week because I'm at the State Bar Convention for the state of Maryland and talking down there, but I'll be back the week after. So thank you, Matthew. And like I said, we'll see you in 6 months.
See you then. Bye-bye.